Hello crystal enthusiast. Congratulations on starting your journey with your crystal friends. Welcome to my video called The Beginner's Guide to Cleansing Crystals. How and how often? This video is a combination of what I have experienced and what were the most common questions that customers asked in my store. I will cover when and why you should cleanse them, 4 easy, inexpensive cleansing methods with some do's and don'ts, and how often you should cleanse them. My name is Shamara and I have been working with crystals personally for over 20 years, and I've been intuitively selling them to people for 18. In this getting started video, I'm not going to be concerned with terminology as I've heard them all being used interchangeably: cleansing, clearing, purifying, cleaning, and I'll even add charging. I'm going to use the term cleaning for the physical cleaning of dust from crystals. And I'll cover the importance of doing that in other videos, although I do touch upon it here. I will use the term cleansing to cover the idea of removing old, stale, stagnant, negative and blocked energies from your crystals. That's the most common term I found in use. And by crystals, I do mean rocks, stones, real crystals as well as man-made crystals. They do all absorb energy, so they all need a cleanse of their energetic grime. When should you cleanse them? I recommend cleansing when you bring them home from the shop or the markets. Many people have been holding them, and most of these people will not be in a good state of energy. That's why they're in the shop buying. The crystals will be helping them unconditionally, even if they're not the ones who are buying them. Haven't you noticed that you started feeling much better just from standing near crystals? Now, if you feel the amazing energy of the shop and the staff, then it's likely not to need a cleanse. When I had shops, we had a setup to keep the shop always energetically clean, and the staff, who were all healers, packed a purchase with an intention that another quick cleanse was being done. Secondly, I would cleanse them when they arrive via the mail if you've ordered them from a web or social media site. This is for similar reasons, but also to help them recover from being wrapped in plastic and flown to you and or to the shop. They have been travelling up in the air, not natural for them. And finally, as you've probably heard, probably the reason you're looking at this video, crystals will need a regular cleansing as you work with them. They're going to be helping you whether you're working with them directly by holding them or indirectly as they sit around your space. They will be absorbing the old, stuck, negative energies you ask to be freed from as you're making your shifts in your mental, emotional, spiritual and physical situation. So of course, most crystals need that old energy to be removed from them. There are a few that are said to be self-cleaning. Energetic cleansing of crystals. Here are the 4 quick and effective ways that I, as a beginner, learnt to cleanse my crystals. These methods don't cost much and they're not a health hazard to you or those you live with. The options are: use a cluster, use salt and water, and use the sun. So let's talk about using a crystal cluster. Let's look at this first option, which we will talk about more later, that some crystals need daily cleansing, and you cannot have an easier method than having a crystal cluster in place to put your crystals on that need a clean, or to put them in front of the points. That way the cluster gets to work while you're relaxing from the day and even while you're having a good snooze. Yes, the cluster costs some money, but remember, it's not going to just be used for cleansing. The cluster can help you directly. Clear quartz is going to be great to bring you clarity of thoughts, memory recall, a new inspiration, just to name a few of its many benefits. Selenite is best known for balancing your energy from head to toe, helping you connect to the earth and to your guidance, but I use it for so much more. Amethyst, of course, is best known for dealing with stress, panic, anxiety, even depression. And again, once it's helped your mind calm and become peaceful, then it works to help enhance intuition and your psychic skill. It is the most purchased crystal. So then why use a cluster? The natural points focus the energy, so a group of points will better direct energy into the stones that you want to cleanse to break up the blockages, not just send energy hither thither. You also use your intention to tell the crystals what to do. And how that works is another whole chat involving quantum physics, so I'm not going to cover it here. So your intention may be cluster, please cleanse and refresh these crystals. Crystals, please be cleansed and refreshed. Which cluster is best? This is a case of what my guide said to me. Over the years, when I would say, well, what is the best cluster this customer should cleanse with? In fact, sometimes it was just, what's the best way for this customer to cleanse their crystals? And 99% of the time, I would be moved through the shop and stopped in front of the amethyst clusters. Why, I asked. I was told that was for a lot of actually practical reasons. Amethyst is somewhat self-cleaning. It is also quite inexpensive. It has lots and lots of points. All those points tend to point in the same direction, and the clusters lie somewhat flat. Therefore, it's easy for you to place your crystal on top of it. If you have a large piece to cleanse, prop the cluster onto its edge and point it towards the cluster or the crystal you're trying to cleanse. The size I'm demonstrating here is a practical size for most people, and it's not too expensive to buy. It's also a nice handhold for when you're needing to help release your own stress. Let's talk about using rock salt. And as a tip, in Australia, the rock salt is usually hidden in the bottom row of the supermarket aisle because it is cheap. Place your crystal on wax or any other thin paper over the rock salt, and ensure it's a good sized glass container so that the crystals have their own little space. Personally, I prefer tissue paper, and to save on costs, well, save up any tissue paper you get from unpacking your clothes and crystals to reuse here. This was the first method that I was taught, not just for the crystals, but it was a great way to absorb the old energy that we were removing from the clients during our pranic sessions and throw them in the salt through intention. Now, the paper is ensuring the salt doesn't get on your crystals where it may damage it, which is the same reason to ensure you don't get any salt on your furniture as you're doing this process, well, unless you know it's salt proof. I once damaged a lovely table timber top when I left salt on it. Why? Salt plus the water that's in the atmosphere combine into an acid, and that will eat through your veneers and paint if you leave it there. How long do you leave it in the rock salt? A few hours, because the salt is not able to flow up against the crystal, and so it will take time. Again, state your intention that the salt is cleansing. You can put the salt then in the sun and give it a cleanse so you can reuse it for another crystal cleansing. If you can afford it, then throw the salt away on a regular basis. Now let's talk about using salt with water. I'm not going to cover using the ocean or the sea. I'll do a different video on that. This well-known variation is to place a spoonful or so of salt in water depending on the bowl size, and this is a quicker cleanse than any other method. However, you now need to be aware of which crystal will be damaged by water. My experience is if the crystal sheds its coating easily, or somehow its crystals seem to be quite delicately put together, don't. There is a rule that no soft stones should go in the water, and their crystal names typically end in an ITE. Well, I'm in two minds about this because I wouldn't leave opal in water either, and it doesn't end in an ITE. Also, a lot of ITE stones coming out of China are in fact man-made fakes. They're glass. You'll have no trouble leaving them in water. I also have happily washed fluorite, calcite in water many times without problems. With celestite that was solid on its matrix, that was fine too, but not one where I could see the cluster was very delicately holding itself together. However, if I was in doubt with the crystal, I certainly would not leave them in the water any more than 10 minutes just in case, and I always dried them thoroughly. Now, I would only use this cleansing method on a warm day or a warm room where the heat would dry all the crystals thoroughly. And I have to say, I have not used this method on the same crystals for years and years and years. Once I could do energy healing on the crystals, water was more now to remove the dirt, so no salt was included. I've never had problems with standard selenite tower from Morocco, but when it was polished into a heart, I left it for 4 hours because I wandered off and it was damaged. It started the transformation process. I certainly have read an article that was compelling about the damage to some of these crystals, and I'm going to now create a video where I'm actually going to do demonstration of putting these crystals in water and what happens over a week, 2 or 3. I'm also going to discuss water cleansing in more detail with more do's and don'ts from my experience. This is probably obvious for some of you. Don't use this method in locations where you have heavy water. That means water with natural or added chemicals. That will leave a coating on the crystals. And to be honest, then you're going to have to use bottled or spring water. That's going to get costly. Hopefully you have a rain tank and that stops the problem. You must also rinse the crystals properly to remove all the salt, otherwise that leaves a coating that could damage. Also, don't use this method if there's a water scarcity in your area. And if you're like me and you have a tendency to wander off, set an alarm to remind you to come back and remove your crystals from the water. When you're ready to throw away the water, you can place it on a plant that you know is salt tolerant. I did this after every big cleaning session. With this method, I found a regular 10-minute cleanse was long enough, but sometimes the crystals were extra dirty and I'd leave them 30 minutes. Now, why is it such a nice short time? The water and the salt are able to surround the crystals. They both are working to clean them energetically, so that's why it's quick. Therefore, it is a great quick cleanse if you need to clean crystals in a space where you've got multiple clients coming in and out. Maybe you're a counsellor or you've got a healing room. The double benefit of this technique is that you're going to be doing a physical clean of the crystals. So do shake them around a little bit if it's a cluster to help get the dust that's lodged. Finally, let's talk about using sunshine. Put the crystal into sunshine. Again, probably not every day, more fortnightly or monthly. It is the least cost method and can be done anytime the sun's out. If you've got a bracelet, it's probably getting the sunshine through the day. However, sometimes there may not be sunny days. You know the crystals need a cleanse, so please work with another alternative. You do need to know which crystals are sun friendly. Many are not sunproof, but for most crystals I found I can leave them in there for 10 minutes once a month and it's fine. Black natural stones, tiger's eye, natural agates and jasper varieties are fine. What's definitely not sunproof, rose quartz from some mines, but I can't tell you which one, so just keep them all out. Amethyst, most coloured agates, so the blue, green, purple ones. Labradorite, destroyed a crystal or two with that. And moonstone. The danger is you put them out for 10 minutes and forget all about them. So please sit in the sun with them and enjoy getting a dose of vitamin D for your own body, as long as you don't have a toxicity problem. So that wraps up the 4 least expensive methods to cleanse your crystals. How often do you cleanse crystals when you're using them? Here again, this is my experience with this. For a normal day in my life, when I was a beginner, where I was having a difficult time physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, then of course I would put on the right crystals to move me out of the discomfort, even my fear, and back into my calm and contented space. Those crystals would be cleansed at night. If I had been around a very negative person, the crystals would be cleansed as soon as possible, because while they're helping me directly, they are often doing this by absorbing the negativity of the other person so that they end up in a better space and not projecting onto you. As I said before, for anyone working in an energetic healing therapy or working in the mental health industry, I would suggest cleansing them between clients if you can. In fact, for some nurses, they couldn't cleanse them between clients, but they'd buy 2 of the protecting stones, and when they felt one was feeling quite dirty, they'd swap to the other. And that's what I was trained to do, and I did it faithfully for years. Then the crystals were refreshed to help the next client session. Of course, when I went through any major shifts in consciousness, even today, when I finally let go a major belief with huge emotional stories attached to it, a good cleansing could be as often as daily, so the crystals would again be refreshed to help me the next day. And what do I mean by a big shift? When you have that aha moment, you finally have a significant new perspective on the question of, in my case, why are people always bullying me for no reason, as well as thoughts of I'm not good enough and I'm not lovable enough. It's such a relief when you finally see things in a way that is loving and peaceful. And also during those times, I'm just having steady change in me. I would cleanse the crystals weekly because they were carrying most of the load in the beginner years as they helped me shift into a happier me, because hey, they're helping me because I often didn't know how to do it. Even today, sometimes I just don't know how to do it. All my ego and negative thoughts were just too strong for others to work on their own. I would combine the crystals with that method, and together they would be effective. As I started to be able to clear myself through energy healing, then the crystals didn't have to do it all, and so I could move the cleansing to more fortnightly. And if I was just integrating or absorbing the new, improved me into the rest of me, then it may just be monthly. Those I wore, carried on myself, or were close to me on the desk at work are always done more often than those that just generally sit around the room with me. And those generally around the house need a pick-me-up cleanse maybe every second month, which is good timing because that kind of matched up with the need for a physical clean of the dust anyway. To that, however, I must add, if you are living with others or have visitors to the home and they are not in a good space, maybe they are ill, maybe they're having a bad day, or they're just projecting their very unhelpful opinions and emotions to anyone, then the room crystals will need a cleanse after they've gone. Again, unconditionally, they're trying to help. They'll be absorbing it. So I initially used this logic to decide when to clean. But after a while, as my connection to the crystals and to spirit grew, it became much more intuitive for me to feel when it was time to cleanse them. And if I went to pick up a bracelet to wear, if I had a feeling of no, clean this first, I would do it. Over time, you come to realize that you are feeling so much better about who you are and the place in the world that you have. You can feel yourself slowly transforming into the person that you really wanted to be. Someone who's more relaxed and balanced, more accepting and forgiving of the past, and more fascinated by other people's quirks than offended and wounded. And for all this positive change that's coming in, the you becoming the new you, then that is also a good time to give all your crystals a freshen up, because they're still holding the energy of the old you. So a good cleanse and asking them to freshen up will help them lift their energy. Once I was more energetically connected to light and healing guides, I would use my amethyst cluster the most and alternate between salt and sun each month for an extra boost to the cleanse. Let's talk about charging. So, what is charging? My crystal guides have suggested to me that charging is not what people think it is, but as a beginner, let's stick to the typical idea that it's like recharging the battery pack of your crystal's energy. The idea will work fine as a starting point for you. Charging the crystals needs to happen after you do a cleansing. There is no point charging up a crystal with dirty energy. It's just going to make the dirty energy stronger. Cleanse the crystal first of the dirty energy stored inside it. If doing this together, so you're going to put it in the sun, say an intention to the crystals, I ask you to be cleansed first and then charged while you sit in the sun. I will have other videos discussing this topic of cleansing your crystals, including the issues with smudging and more details about water cleansing, but as a beginner's guide, this is the methods that I used, and you should find that it works a treat. You will get started with keeping your friends fresh and ready to work with you every day. And of course, like, share, subscribe, and make comments so that you can enjoy more crystal experiences through this channel. I am Shamara, helping you remember that your crystal friends are really here to help you steer towards a happier life.